Welcome back to the show. I'm John Knocklinger. I'm a New Jersey divorce attorney and mediator and a men's divorce coach. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how you can have a better divorce. My guest for this conversation is Jen Mitchell. She is a family law attorney, mediator, and holistic health and witness coach with 18 years of experience doing all of the stuff that we're going to be talking to you about today. She's the creator and CEO of Solace Divorce Mediation, where she's dedicated to transforming the divorce process into one of empowerment, growth, and love. Jen emphasizes the importance of children's well-being, self-care, self-love, authenticity, and guiding individuals through healing and mindset shifts during difficult times. You're just going to see her love pour over all of you today as we go through this conversation. She offers a Divorce with Love masterclass where she demystifies the divorce process and helps people transform their experience from one of destruction to empowerment. I'm sure she's going to tell us a lot about that today too. Thank you for being here today, Jen.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to connect with you, John. Thank you.
It's absolutely our pleasure. I love to speak with people that made the transition from, the litigation divorce attorney to what I think is seeing the light and coming to mediation and really figuring out how to help people through the process, not just getting them divorced, but really think of everything that they need to get from where they were and maybe a bad relationship or a difficult relationship to where they can move on and have a better life. Because, divorce is not the end. It's not even, it's just, maybe it's the end of the beginning.
New beginning.
It's a new beginning, right? So tell our listeners a little bit about your journey from how you became, the traditional divorce attorney to the person you are today.
Oh, absolutely. So I was a litigation attorney for the first 9 years of my career, and I just did the role and the parts the way that we were trained to do it. And I didn't realize the bigger effect of the work that I was doing as a litigation attorney, representing the zealous, being a zealous advocate for one person in a divorce and representing that person's best interest as if they were an island of one, when many times they're part of a family, because I didn't have children. And then I had 3 kids in 39 months. And when the third one came, he was May 2014. I still remember it was about June. I was in my dining room, and I just had this. Now I understand what it was. At the time, I didn't understand, but it was my mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodily selves were all telling me, you cannot do this anymore. Like, you cannot do this anymore. The impact that you're having, you're destroying other people's children, you're destroying families, you're destroying people. The ripple effect of the work that I was doing, I felt as a litigation attorney, and in that really destructive system, I didn't want it to be my livelihood. I didn't want my children to grow up watching me, doing that for my work. And so I took a course to be a holistic health and wellness coach. And I thought I was going to change careers. I was like, well, I think I'm going to become a coach and help people be their best version of self. And then while I was taking the course, I realized, I'm like, you know what? I can actually incorporate a lot of these principles into the divorce journey as a mediator, not as a litigator, because in the courtroom setting, they don't talk about the emotional process of divorce. It's solely focused to the legal. But as we all know, who are in this field and who have gone through divorce, it's just as much an emotional process as it is a legal. So that was where Solace started, was 2014, and really having this commitment of, figuring out what is a better way to get a divorce. And then now it's what's the best way to get a divorce? How can we go through this and really use it as the valuable tool it can be, if it's done mindfully, to really learn more about yourself and heal from past traumas and experiences, and use it to grow, and reinvent yourself and continue along your life journey and seek joy and seek love and just live an amazing life. So that is my journey thus far.
Well, it's a great journey because it got you to this place where you're really doing so many great things for people. I think what's interesting is that most people, when they start going through a divorce, they just think, I go hire a divorce attorney. Mm-hmm. And, that's the first step I do. And I've been saying this for years. That is the absolute worst possible first step. I mean, even if you're in a really bad situation where somebody's doing really bad things, like hiding money or locking you out of the house or doing something where unfortunately you're gonna have to get a judge involved because of just how bad it is, even then, you can still try to go and find somebody that's going to be able to help you more in a holistic fashion. And so, what I think is interesting here is you combine it all into one. You know, you do coaching and help people in that respect, but you also can help them get a divorce and help them
Mhm.
resolve things. That's not typical.
Mhm.
So, there's you need different things in a divorce. And so, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about what you think when someone is starting the process. Again, we're not going to talk about the outliers of people that have something that's really horrible, but like just
Right.
somebody who's like the marriage is at an end. I, you
Mhm.
know, maybe it's at an end for a really bad reason. Maybe you found out your spouse was cheating on you or something
Mhm.
like that, or maybe you found out your spouse has been stealing money or something. But
Mhm.
even then, you're like, listen, the marriage is over. I need to move on. If you were to tell that person what they need to do
Mhm.
first, what do you tell them?
Yeah, I love this conversation and I love being here to talk about this because I think exactly what you just brought up is what needs to shift in our human consciousness. Is there's such a strong programming when it comes to divorce. When people get to a space where they feel that they need to divorce or their spouse has told them, the programs instantly go into this space of I need to hire a family law attorney. I need to hire a bulldog. I need to get what I deserve. I need to fight in court. It's going to take years and we're going to spend all of our money and our kids are going to be screwed up. And I think those programs, that's the origin of the issue, right? It's the media program to that. And then all the people, the social consciousness, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Anyone who has been through a divorce is all of a sudden an expert on it. And I think if we can shift the way that people are looking at divorce, from that foundational level, and even what you brought up, a spouse is cheating on them or is stealing money or whatever may happen, right, have happened throughout their marriage to lead them to divorce. If we can shift that to a space of, okay, this is all happening for you specifically. Every single thing that is happening in your journey is happening for you to learn from. It's showing you something. It's a mirror to you to show you something that you have within you that you need to heal. And it's maybe something that is yours to heal. Maybe this is a lineage generational pattern that is presenting, that is part of your cellular DNA, that you are here to heal and shift. And when we heal and shift that, then we're opening up space to new experiences, new people. It's really shifting what divorce is, John, which is it's a tall, ask or even mission, I think. But I think the human consciousness is ready for it. I think they can feel it. They can feel, I don't want to fight. It's been hard enough getting to the space of figuring out and getting to the realization that you are going to divorce. They don't want to fight, I don't think. I think people are tired. I think they just want to be happy. I think they want to just seek their joy. I think they want to live authentically. I think people are constantly receiving guidance, from their inner guidance and intuition or, outside guidance from angels, masters, guides, ancestors, whomever may be present, but they're always receiving guidance of their path and their journey. And I feel divorce is just one part of a person's path and life journey. And I also believe that divorce presents exactly when it should, exactly as it should for each person, for all of the reasons that it's presenting. And the only way that they can really learn, the reasons and the lessons that they're meant to is in the space of mediation, in my opinion. Because in that container of mediation, it's the two people, it's the two souls that in my world, my belief system, they soul contracted before they came to teach one another all the different lessons that they were meant to. And oftentimes, the people who destroy us the most or break our hearts the most are actually, our strongest teachers in this lifetime. That if we could look at that from a space of, well, amazing. Like, yes, this was so hard and it was so dark and lonely and just devastating to me. But look what happened as a result. I emerged from this stronger. I learned so much about myself. I have a whole different self-love. I have a whole different way of navigating this world moving forward. I have different boundaries. I'm attracting different people in my life. Like, if we can shift to a space of gratitude for all of the things and release everything, not hold on to it, not fight, not focus on the past, recognize everything for the way that it happened, but really tune into the present, it can shift everything. So I think it's the programs. Going back to the question, I think it's the programs. We need to shatter the programs. We need to have this narrative, be the narrative that is shared about divorce, because it's a choice. It's a choice. It can be destructive or it can be empowering. And that,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
foundation of choice.
and I think it affects not only your post-divorce world and your life and future relationships and the relationships you have with your children and your ex-spouse and everything else, but it's how's the divorce process itself go? Because I think what everyone's focused in on, and what I love hearing you talk about, is really setting people up for life and the life that they're going to live. People, when they start the divorce, it's like they're, to use that old adage, they're batting the balls in front of their face. They're not thinking about the future. It's almost like impossible for them to think about the future because they're just too concerned with what's happening today. Or they think about the future in very like shallow terms, like, how much money am I going to have to pay my ex-spouse in support, or how much time am I going to have with my kids, without really incorporating those issues into like the bigger picture. And so I love hearing you talk about when people go through a divorce, making sure that they understand the whole picture, making sure they understand that they need to work on themselves, from that starting at that moment, not waiting until you're done with your divorce and then working on yourself.
Totally.
So I love this. So, there's a difference between men and women as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and we
the
have
masculine energy and the feminine energy. Very
right.
different.
And in a large part of our audience is men.
Yes,
and
that's why
men
I'm so excited to be here.
yeah, and as you know, men, especially in this space, have been underserved for years, just because you can't talk to them in the same way that women talk to. Men's concerns in divorce typically are more the things I just said, like, how much am I going to get with my kids? Don't take my kids away from me. How much money am I going to have to pay? Like, right. So how do you, when someone comes into your office, particularly, when you're helping them with mediation and really helping them maybe even determine whether they're going to get divorced or whether they're going to stay married and legally separate, or whether they're going to get divorced, and how do you also get men on board with this more holistic approach that you've been talking about?
Totally. And this, I can't wait to share this with you, because it's, my cat is right here, so that's why I'm like leaning. He might visit us, but
that's fine.
It's so interesting. Just the divine, everything is, in my world, everything is magical, and I feel like that's part of the message, is like really, choosing to live in a space of magic if you desire. But this is what's so cool about this question you just asked. So previously, and I've been doing this for 9 years. I've been doing, Solace this way for 9 years. Previously, my feminine energy clients, of course, they love journaling, they love salt baths, they love self-care and self-love, they love processing, they love all the different ways of looking at things. Like, they just feel very comfortable and safe in the space. And up until Monday of this week, for 9 years, I would always, whenever I had a consult with a masculine energy, and even throughout the journey, I would share with them, masculine energy typically connects with mediation, and particularly Solace, because, well, with all mediation, it's faster. So the masculine energy typically likes that. It's a faster process. It's also significantly less expensive, which the masculine energy likes that as well. But with Solace, I always share with the masculine energy, what you're also going to like is that your feminine energy counterpart is going to be calm. Your feminine energy is going to be calm during this experience, which is going to be good for you, because the masculine energy knows the feminine energy, just like the feminine energy does too. So previous to Monday of this week, that was always the narrative that I shared with my masculine energy. And then on Monday, and you and I are meeting today on Friday. So on Monday, I have a mediation session, and it's a masculine and feminine energy dynamic. And I was sharing with them about a book that I've written that I haven't released because there was something that was blocking it. And the title of it was Shine, Goddess, Shine. And it was 30 days of healing for a feminine energy going through a divorce. And so I was sharing this with both of them during the mediation session. And the masculine energy said, you know what, I would really like to read that book. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's been my block. And maybe just like the programs of divorce, maybe the social consciousness, we have programs with regards to what it means to be a masculine energy, you know, and in my world, I have lots of masculine energy friends who are very tuned into their emotion, and they enjoy talking about it, and they enjoy processing it, and they enjoy going in nature, and they enjoy the self-care and self-love. So after Monday, it was amazing, because now the title of the book is Shine, Soul Shine, and it's for the masculine and the feminine. And now I'm really getting excited about going on podcasts and about doing the other things that I'm doing to share this message, because I do feel that the masculine energy is ready for this. I feel that they're ready for it's kind of, when I tune into it, it's like it's expanding the way that they navigate in this world. You know, they're no longer going to be forced to like play the roles and the parts of like, this is what the masculine energy does, and he does all these things. You know, I think there's a difference between masculine and feminine energy, and I think that's important. But where I'm at now after Monday is I feel this is a human way of being. It's not just isolated to masculine or feminine. It's a human way. You know, we are all humans. We are all connected to everything. But I think these narratives and kind of this way of being will serve both energies, masculine and feminine.
Yeah, I love that. And if we get rid of the masculine and feminine energy for a moment and sort of just talk more about when people come to you in different places, you know, for
Oh my
example,
gosh, yes.
you know, you've got one person who maybe has been thinking about divorce for years and years. It usually is a woman, but it may not be. You know, but they've been thinking about it for years. They've been really planning. They've been talking to people. They're really good. And then the other person maybe has been oblivious or has not been paying attention or has been so caught up in just their day-to-day, going to work, coming home, you know, sleeping, that they haven't really been noticing their marriage starting to crumble. Maybe consciously they should have been noticing it, but they've blocked it for some reason. And so the divorce has come as a surprise to them.
Yes.
You know, probably wasn't a surprise to anyone else in their lives, you know, family,
Right.
friends, but it's a surprise to them. So now they're being brought into the divorce process, you know, like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? You know, I don't deserve this. And the other person's like, oh, I deserve something so much better. And I've been thinking about this for. So how do you bring those two energies together to go forward?
I love you, because you work with this too. You know, I feel, and I coach my clients and say, when this dynamic presents, you know, that this dynamic in 18 years of doing this presents, I say, in like 98% of the cases. Like it just does, you know. And I think it's difficult for both people. I think the person who, you know, is the one who's kind of driving it forward, of course, that person, absolutely, I coach. I'm like, you have had the time to emotionally process this. Like when it first presented in that person's mind, they're probably like, what am I even thinking about? Like, what is going on? But they've had the time to process it. They've reached the space where they've worked through all the different scenarios and everything. And they're like, this is the best step forward for me, for my spouse, for my family, for the world. Right. So, but I think it's difficult to be that person but I love that space for that person, because that person is making this decision and I'm touching my throat because that's where our throat chakra is, which is our truth chakra. But they're making that decision because they are following their inner guidance. Something within them is telling them there is something more for you. And they don't know what it is. That's what I love too. They have no idea what's going to happen, but they are trusting themselves and they are moving forward, which I think is just so empowering for that person, for the spouse, for children to see their parents doing this, like following their inner guidance. I just think is extraordinary. But it's hard for that person. It's hard because they're they're changing their family, and with those strong programs that are in place about divorce, specifically like parents worrying about their children or losing all their money or taking years, all of the programs. So that's a really hard space. For the other person who's coming in and is like feet dragging, and my clients are very open. I encourage, let's all be authentic and just speak our truth, mindfully and respectfully and hopefully lovingly. But that the person who's receiving, who's kind of forced into this space, which is a truth about divorce. If one person wants to get a divorce, you are going to get a divorce. That's what I always coach the other person. You are going to get one. You don't have a choice about that, but you do have a choice how difficult you want to make it. And you do have a choice what experience you're going to have. And so for that other person who's receiving, who's kind of in this space, not wanting to be here, I always share with that person with love, like truly from my heart space with love, like while you may not want to be here right now, I promise you there will come a time where you're going to thank your spouse for this truth. And so my strongest, advice for that person, for any of your listeners who are in that space, is to stop thinking about your spouse. Stop wondering, like, why doesn't she love me anymore? Why doesn't she think that we can work on this? Like, why does she want to do this? What is going on? Why is she doing all these things? She or he or they, whatever, the other person is doing whatever the person is doing for all of the reasons that are unique to that person. Mm-hmm. And I coach the person receiving and tell them, like, with love, like I tell them, it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're a bad spouse or a bad parent. This is that person's journey and they are doing what they need to do for them. And so I always coach the receiver, I encourage you, spend time by yourself and stop thinking about that other person and start asking yourself the hard questions, which are, do I really want to be with someone who's telling me that they don't want to be with me anymore? Do I really want to stay in a relationship with someone who's telling me that they're no longer romantically in love with me? And when they stop thinking about the other person and stop thinking about all the other things and noise that are around them, and they really tune into themselves and ask themselves those questions, of course, across the board, the answer is no, because we all deserve love. We all deserve joy. We all deserve to be in a relationship with someone who is giving us just as much as we are giving them. And we're both feeling, fulfilled and whole from the relationship. And so that is always my coaching for that person is while it doesn't make sense right now, and the task at hand right now is for you to emotionally catch up to that other person. And at Solace, I have handbooks. So I have a Solace client emotional handbook, a Solace client legal handbook, and because they're two very different energies, two very different processes that they're going through. But the emotional handbook has a lot of guided meditations that they can do, or breath work that they can do, guided breath work. I always encourage them, go in nature, like during this time, become very selfish and start tuning into yourself and figuring out, okay, who am I now? If this relationship is ending and we're no longer going to be married, who am I now? And what do I want? And exactly what you had shared, previously, is using the divorce journey as this really powerful container of medicine that it is, as opposed to deflecting and fighting and everything is external. Really bring it in, and think about what is important to me, and think about the bigger picture of when children are involved. Like, you're always going to be a family, you're always going to be in a relationship with one another. So let's do this mindfully, and let's, recognize that there's so many different types of relationships, so many forms of love. And the two of you can navigate this space in this mindful manner to go into a different relationship space that feels good, because the one that you're in now isn't feeling good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be talking to me if it was feeling good.
Yeah. And you don't want to be in this position where you hold on to like anger and animosity forever, because it will infect everything in your life. It'll infect your mindset in your day-to-day life. It'll affect your future relationships. And then if you have children, I mean, what kind of co-parent are you that you see everything through the prism of this person who hurt you and that ruined your marriage and like broke up your family, instead of just looking at it from the perspective you just looked at it from. So, I think what's interesting is a little bit of your personal story, and we all, it's interesting whenever we're, all of us who are attorneys, our clients, we think sometimes they want to hear our personal story, but they really don't. But I do think sometimes it's instructive for them to sort of see real life examples about how things can happen. But what I thought was interesting about you is you, like me, have been divorced.
Yes.
But something interesting happened with you and your ex, and I'd like you to tell our listeners a little bit about what's happened and how do you think what you guys went through in the divorce process led to the point where you're able to do what you do today?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I was divorced in 2019, and I'm so grateful. So my ex-husband, his name is Aaron. He's an amazing artist, musician. He's an extraordinary person. And we went through our divorce journey with love. We went through it in the Solace way. So we did, we created all of our agreements about the children, we have 3 kids together and 2 cats, our kids, and, our marital property. And we did it very mindfully. At the time we were living, I was in Oak Park. Well, we were in neighboring suburbs. We lived apart for 3 years. And I think that 3 years apart was really important just to heal. I think it is important to be separate, physically separate, so you can do that really deep healing work. COVID happened, so that was even more of healing. And then we made the decision with COVID, as a family law attorney and mediator, COVID made all of family law go virtual. And so that really opened up this beautiful space where we could relocate anywhere we wanted to really be. And it was important for us. We wanted our kids to be outside more. Aaron is from Colorado. So we made the decision that we were going to relocate to Boulder, Colorado. And this is 2 years ago, and we didn't know anyone here. And so we made the decision that we would move in together. So I'm in our house right now. We have lived together for the last 2 years, and we have our two cats, our 3 kids. And it's not a romantic relationship, but it's a really beautiful, beautiful friendship. I mean, at this point, we've known each other for almost 20 years. We've been through so many different things together. And so, yeah, we have dinner together. Aaron cooks. I'm not great at cooking yet. So he cooks, and we have family dinner together. We've gone on vacations together. We do all the school things together. So yeah, we're just always spending, positive, joyful time together. Aaron's in another relationship that he's, getting really excited about. So I don't think we're going to be living together, all of us, very much longer. But yeah, it's been a beautiful space, and it's beautiful to see him find new love and to be able to support him in that and be really joyful for him, and for our kids to see that. And I just feel like everything can flow in a really beautiful way when we let go of the things, when we're not holding on to things and we just accept things, for being what they are.
And how great for your kids. I mean, I just think this is great that their
totally.
parents are
Yeah.
there. But you know what?
Totally.
Your story, you could sort of take that into other situations, like with step parents. And
totally. Yeah.
And that's one of my big issues, is that people, they can't let go of the anger. So then they look at the new step parent, the new spouse, as, a devil. And now all of a sudden, that I don't want my devil, to be a parent to my kids. And how dare they come to the school play? And how dare they, be on an email about it? It's ridiculous. And people forget, they get so caught up on being so angry that they can't see the big picture. And so what I love is that if you start your divorce with someone like you, Jen, who can, from the very onset, start to put, intentionally create that environment where you won't feel the need to do that because you've processed it. It will just make everything better. And I know a lot of guys are going to listen to this and be like, that sounds a little wonky or washy. But that's the thing, is that men need it so much
Yes.
more, because what men do I mean, women do it too, but most men just internalize and suppress. And so they're angry, but not in an overt way. So they just do avoidance. And like, okay, so my ex is at the school play with the new husband. I'm just going to come up with an excuse not to even go to the play at all. And I'm support my
Oh,
kids, you know? So the guys do all this other stuff, and it's because you didn't process things. So I'm really interested. And I know you're about to say something else, but in addition to whatever you're about to say, can you talk a little bit about? I'm really curious about your process itself, because I've never heard of anyone combining mediation in the legal sense, like actually helping people construct agreements with this coaching as well. So I'm really curious, like sort of how you do it all, because it is a very unique process.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been this journey, this 9-year journey. So I feel like every couple that I've worked with, which now, I mean, it's been over 500 couples. And I feel like every couple I was learning more, I was figuring out more, like, what is the best way for this to flow? So we start with, so I just do flat fees. I do based on mediation sessions. I try to manage expectations as much as possible, because as you know, from being a former litigator, in that space, there's really there's no way to do that. We start the Solace journey with what's called the onboarding Zoom, which is an hour session. And it's the first time that we're all together. So everything I do is via Zoom, which is intentional, because before COVID, they would come into my office and sit on the couch, and energetically, I could feel like there's so much going on when you're physically next to someone. You're hearing them breathe, you're smelling them. There's a lot going on energetically. So with COVID, that was another beautiful gift, is now we're doing Zoom. And I always coach my clients, when you're tuning in, create a space, like create intentionally and mindfully this really expansive space that's going to make you feel safe, and that's going to make you feel that you're able to share your truth. So like, I always have candles lit and incense, and I'm burning sage, which is clearing heavy energies, and Palo Santo, and I'm doing all these things on my side. So I always encourage them to do that. So the first time that we're together in this container of we are starting, this journey together, is the onboarding. And so for the onboarding, I just want to make sure you know what the Supreme Court homework is. We're creating the judgment, the parenting agreement, the marital settlement agreement. Like, you understand the legal stuff that we're doing. You have access to the two internal systems that, one has those handbooks and a workbook they have too. And the other one is like the financial disclosure. So we start with that, but then also in the onboarding, I'm opening up space, for them to share, like, what kind of fears do you have? Like, what kind of concerns are coming up for you? Like, and hopefully, and I always coach them, read the handbook, the legal handbook, before the onboarding, just so you have an idea of what we're going to be talking about. And the key to everything, that I coach my clients, the heart of Solace is children. My kids changed my whole career, and I don't want any other children to be negatively impacted by divorce, because I think it can be a really powerful, amazing experience for them, and their family can still have fun together and do cool things together, and their parents can still be nice to each other, and all of those things. The foundation is self-care and self-love. So I coach my clients, you are going through one of the most emotionally difficult times of your life. You need to take care of yourself. Like, shatter that program too, like, of being selfish. Like, being selfish is necessary. You cannot serve at the level you wish to serve without taking care of yourself. But the soul of the practice is authenticity. So in that onboarding Zoom, I'm working to create this sacred space of authenticity, for each person, and really giving them space and helping them understand that while they have been in this relationship together, this entire time, they are two very different people with very different soul purposes. They're here to do different work on this beautiful planet that we live on, and make other human life better. And the other thing is, they have belief systems that are, this is a whole nother kind, but this is what we talk about in onboarding. You have belief systems that were created by the ages of 7 to 9 years old. So you've used them to navigate your whole life. So while you've been traveling together in this journey, different things have happened, and each of you your belief systems have filtered what has happened, and you each have a different way of looking at it, right? So in the onboarding space, I want to hear from each of them, where do you feel like you're out of alignment with your partner. When looking over all the legal conversations, what do you have concerns about? So many times we have concerns about the parenting agreement, fear that we're not going to see our children. We have concerns about the financial stuff, fear that we're going to have to be paying all of this money every month. And so really opening up space for that. And then I just, from my space, then I really think about, okay, tuning into what are they really sharing is their concern. What is the real deeper fear here? Not just that. There's always something deeper. And then I give them homework. These are things I want you to think about. And I always, like I've shared before, I always encourage my clients, go in nature. Like, do your homework in nature, because nature is such a powerful space. Plants in the totem are givers of energy. So you can clear all the noise around you when you're in nature. And then we meet for the first session where they're 2.5 hours. We do all of the, background information to create the judgment. And then we go through all the parenting agreements that are all focused on the best interests of their kids, and I continually share with my clients, you are the best authorities to do this. Like, these are your children. You have known them since the day you found out you were pregnant with them, really. Like, you've known them. You've known them the whole time. You know them better than anyone else. Of course, you are the best two people to determine what's in their best interest. And then I also coach them in sharing, my belief system. And I always share with my clients and with you right now and with your listeners, like, when I share my belief systems, it's not to insinuate you must believe this. It's truly from a space of love, just offering a different way of looking at things that may help people feel better. But in my belief system, our children choose us to be their parents. And so it's important for kids to spend time with both parents because each parent is teaching them different things. The kids are learning different lessons from their parents, and they chose those two parents because those two are the exact people that they need to learn the lessons that they came here to learn to become their highest and greatest version of self. So regardless of what that looks like as far as an upbringing, you need to go through those things to become the work that you came here to do, basically. And then we meet for a third session or second mediation session, but third time. And we talk about the marital settlement agreement, all the financial stuff. And that may take a couple times, but before we meet, they have to do all their disclosure. And, we have the calculations run. We have a separate legal team that we outsource to, and they do all the legal stuff. So they draft all the legal documents. They do all the e-filing. They set them up for their prove update. And then before they go to court, we have what's called the legal document review Zoom, where I just go over the documents so they're familiar with them. And then we also do a karmic cord cutting ceremony that is just like before they go to court, like it's just via Zoom, and we're in this container where we're cutting, that energetic connection between the two of them. And really by that point, they're also throughout the Solace journey, they're getting journal prompts every week. Like, it starts with acceptance and then letting go, and there's gratitude and forgiveness. Like, so they're getting these journal prompts. And so the intention is always, by the time they get to the legal document review Zoom, they've really processed a lot, and they've really let go of a lot. And during the journey, they have 2 one-on-one coachings with me. So then I can kind of tune in and see where they're at and kind of help them shift if they need to shift some more.
And I'm assuming on those calls, you're very clear, like, we're not talking about anything other than you. We're just talking about you and your journey, right?
Yeah. And anything that may be coming up, but I'm always a neutral. I am very clear with that. I am 100% a neutral, which I love the space of neutrality. In my personal and professional life, I don't ever judge anyone, and there isn't a right, wrong, good or bad for me in any space. So being this like beautiful neutral, that's just like helping guide them and sprinkle some magic and different ways of looking at things that may feel good is a really nice space I found for me.
I agree. One thing I've really realized as becoming a mediator myself, and I mediate very differently than you, but the one thing I have realized is that most people are not cut out to be neutrals, because like most people they really feel like people should do the things the way that they think it should be done. And I'm a big proponent of, you have to let people, decide their own destiny, even if it's something that's completely what you would consider to be crazy. I mean, I felt I've had people reach agreements that I was just flabbergasted about, but they wanted it. And
Right.
since they wanted it, that's what's good for them. But
Mhm.
I have a question for you just in terms of mediation, because I hear this a lot. How do you deal with the people that come in and when you start talking about, custody, or you start talking about support or how we're going to divide assets, they say things to you like, Jen, I want whatever the law says I'm entitled to. Or
Yes.
Jen, tell us what the law says. Well, how do you address those sorts of things?
Totally. Well, that's the beauty of the law, right? I mean, I think there's 41 states now that have for marital property division, fair and equitable, which is so beautiful, and then for kids, best interest of children. It's like, well, this is amazing. Like they're so vague, and in the vagueness is the beauty for the mediation space. And that's what I share with them is best interest of children for parenting agreements, fair and equitable for marital property division and support, calculations and contribution towards those extra expenses for kids. And if you're, sharing anything and how you're going to work that out, but how beautiful, in this space. And that's what I love about the work that I do, is because I feel like a lot of times people are living their lives and they're kind of just like, they're like leaves blowing in the wind. They're just kind of going in all the directions that life is taking them. And I feel like in this container, I can really help people really step into that space of empowerment of like, well, wait a minute, this is your life. You don't have to be this leaf that's blowing around. You can be the person who is dictating the way that this journey goes, And so when it's best interest of children, fair and equitable for marital property division, it's like, well, come on, you're the best people. You're the best people to talk about your kids. You're the best people to talk about marital property. You've been working hard for this every single day since you were married, and the beauty that, because it's in your cellular DNA, just like it is in mine from when we were litigation attorneys, is that truly, I coach my clients and say, look, in this container, you're being given a gift to work together. And it's hard. That's the only hard part, I think, in mediation versus litigation. Litigation is destructive in every area. But in mediation, I think that the harder part than litigation is that they actually have to talk to each other. Whereas in litigation, they can hide behind their attorney and be like, oh, I didn't know they were going to do that. Mediation, you have to talk, you have to do this. You have to have these conversations. But if you don't, take advantage of this gift that you both have agreed to utilize, your only other option is to go into court with those same vague guidance, right, of a best interest of children, fair and equitable. And you're going to straight up give your power away to speak to an attorney that is doing a job, who has their own life and their own potential family and their own dreams and vacation desires and all of those things. This is a job for that person. They're billing you in 6-minute increments. You can't speak. They're going to speak for you. And then you are giving your power away to someone. And granted, I get it. Like judges, judges are amazing and they look important when they're elevated and wearing their robe with their gavel and like all of the things. Like it's like, yes, that person is smart. That person, has done probably amazing things, but that person has never met your children. And that person has never lived one day in your marriage. And you are giving your power away to that person to say, you know what, you look so important and smart up there. You tell us, because we couldn't possibly figure it out what's in the best interest of our kids or fair and equitable. I mean, it's like, so when people say, and that's the programs, John, like what you started the question, that's the I want to get what the law tells me, it's like, well, amazing. The law tells you best interest of kids, fair and equitable. So that's what this container is for you to step into that space of empowerment as the best authority to do this work with your partner and actually work together, have conversations, connect with one another, which I think just is so important in our life right now, like just in the lives of our human consciousness. People are so disconnected. There's so many ways that we're being divided from one another. It's like we can all come together and it's love. I mean, that's the name of the masterclass. I feel like the root of what I do is I help people heal, and I help them see through things through the lens of love. And I think love is the answer to all of it.
I think that it is too. I will say you're very positive about judges. I'm not quite as positive, but you know what? Listen, everyone does the best that they can, but
yeah,
I don't think people fully grasp, going back to that, whatever the law tells me I'm entitled to. I love the way that you phrased it about best interest of children and fair and equitable. That should let you know something. That means when you go in front of a judge, they have tremendous discretion to do basically whatever they want. And it's going to be very difficult for like an appellate court to ever change it because of the discretion that the judges have. And so you're going into a judge who you don't know their history. You know, did they go through a bad divorce and so they have biases about something? Or maybe they never had children, so they have a hard time understanding children. Or, you know, maybe they have a very poor financial mindset. So they look at everything from a sense of lack, or, you know, or maybe they grew up around tons of money and then they don't really understand what's the harm of a couple more bucks. So you have these judges that come with all these biases that, you know, maybe are subconscious, but they're there because everyone has biases, no matter how much you think you don't. And now you're giving the power to this person who has a ton of power. A ton of power to make decisions, and there's very little you can do about it. And it's just going to make you just miserable because now, you know, and I will say this, and you probably experienced this when you were litigating, I would say 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, both people hate the judge's decision in some way. Because, you know, sometimes judges try to do that whole thread the needle and let me give a little bit to each side. The bottom line is, mediation, regardless of, you know, where you live, it doesn't matter. Mediation is the best way to proceed. But Jen, you got to have two willing participants. So my last really substantive question on this for you is, you have one person come into you and it's like, I really want to do mediation. I really want this. I love your program, Jen, but my spouse, like, you know, how do I get them on board? How do I get them to agree to go through this process with me?
Yeah. I mean, in that case, I always, you know, have a follow-up email, you know, that has different attachments. I have video, like a Divorce 101 video that I created that just really helps explain what mediation is, what we do in there. And I always invite, you know, the other spouse to have that space to ask questions, you know, just to get information. It doesn't mean you're committing to this, just to get information. The other bigger picture of it, you know, that I share is it's your journey and it's your partner's journey, and the two of you, you know, like going back to what you had said about clients that have created agreements that you're like, why would they create this? Like, this seems so weird, but it's what they want. I have that same perspective with just the divorce journey. It's like, I truly believe that the souls that are attracted to Solace, they're coming for a reason. You know, we're meant to be in that space together. The souls where one of them, you know, doesn't want to, or both of them don't want to, you know, and they use that court system. I think it's just, that's part of their soul's journey that has nothing to do with me. My heart hurts for them because I know how difficult that litigation experience is. But I also am always mindful that there's no way for me to understand the reason why people are doing what they're doing or what they're meant to learn from that space. You know, I just have absolute belief and faith and trust that every human is being guided in the way that they are for all of the reasons. I think, you know, the work that we can do, you know, to serve as many as we can. And that was a very strong message that I received a couple of weeks ago, is serve more, serve more. And I think, you know, having you offering this space, you know, you doing the work that you're doing, me doing the work that I'm doing, and that we're having these conversations in the hope that it's resonating, you know, that people are, the programs of, you know, you must go to court and you must fight and you must destroy and you must spend all this money. Like, my intention is always to shatter those, you know, and maybe just start with a little shaking, you know, maybe some of your listeners are like, well, wait a minute, these two, you know, John has been an attorney for 20 years and Jen has been one for 18 years. And they both were in the courtroom as litigation attorneys. And now they're both out of the courtroom, you know, sharing their expertise and their magic in this field of mediation. Like, maybe, you know, maybe they know what they're talking about. But I think that's the way that we're going to really help with this shift. And I think judges are going to appreciate it. I think judges are so overwhelmed. Their dockets are so overflowing. They only have a certain amount of time they can, they have to be on the bench every day. And then how much time do they have in the rest of their workday to like read cases? Like there's no way. So if you and I and all of the other souls that are doing this work can do our part of sharing and service, I think we'll help, with that flow. We can take out, I think I heard on one of your podcasts, it was like 98% of cases you think, like, get those out of the courtroom setting. So the ones that really need it, the ones that are really, really, potentially dangerous to children or people, or, just really high conflict and toxic, that those cases can be in that container of the court system with a judge, getting the guidance that they need without all of the other cases just really muddying the waters unnecessarily. People don't need to go to court for a divorce. I even tell them with mediation, it's like, you are more than welcome to get an attorney, knowing that I'm an attorney, but knowing that in this role, I'm a mediator and I'm a neutral. If you are being called to, hire an attorney for a zealous advocate lens, do that, follow your inner guidance and do that. You can do both. You can be in mediation and have an attorney coming in, giving you their feedback, but you can still participate in that container where you are speaking your voice. You are speaking your truth. You are the best authority. You are the one making the agreements, and do it in just such a short amount of time in comparison to the courtroom setting,
Oh, people don't even realize just how much quicker it is. It is like, I mean, it's different in every state, but I mean, in New Jersey, you're talking about, instead of 18 to 24 months, getting done in maybe 3 months.
Yes, that's the same.
I mean, it's
Same
crazy. It's
Yes.
crazy. Well, do you only do this in Illinois?
No, so I can mediate anywhere. And we're
Okay.
going to start on the website. I'm going to start advertising. We're going to start doing divorce mediation 4-day retreats. And so then we're going to be going all over the country. And I have a really amazing team, and we're going to incorporate therapy and sound healing and breath work and meditation and intention setting. And it's going to be a really powerful container where the parents are of course invited, because they're the ones getting a divorce, but the children are going to be invited. And we're going to have children therapists that are going to do activities with the kids while the parents are in the container of figuring out their agreements. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about it. So that's something, when we go to New Jersey, I'm totally going to hit you up. And
you should. And when you've done this, I want you back on to talk about
awesome.
how it worked,
Yeah.
because that's fascinating. But I can't let you go without you telling us about the Divorce with Love Masterclass.
Yeah.
What is that?
Thank you. So I love the Divorce with Love Masterclass. So it's 3 hours and 39 minutes. I'm a numbers girl, so all the numbers are important to me. But it's me sharing, 18 years of experience in this field of talking about the emotional part of divorce, the legal process of divorce, like just really powerful tools that people can utilize. I talk about, the Solace journey, the journal, and the 8 steps that you can go through. But my whole intention for that masterclass is to provide people with a resource where they can do it on their own, wherever they want to do it. They can be in bed, they can be wherever they want to do it, but to really demystify the whole process because of those very strong programs. And as you and I know, and just from listening to other recordings of your podcast, the legal process of divorce is not difficult. It really is not. It really isn't this like overcomplicated thing. I mean, it's creating 3 main documents: the judgment, the parenting agreement, marital settlement agreements. Like that's pretty much the foundation of what it is. And so the masterclass just goes through all, like, a lot of the things that you and I have been talking about. It starts with beliefs, like really tuning into what are your beliefs when it comes to marriage, when it comes to parenting, family, divorce, where did these beliefs come from? Like all of these amazing exercises and journey. And it's just really easy. There's 9 modules. There's all these different sections. And yeah, I'm really excited about it because the people who have, participated in viewing it and being a part of this community have all had very positive feedback of how it really shifted things. And even people who have been through divorce and already are done with their divorce, but are still holding on to anger or resentment. I've had people in that group, purchase the course and reach out to me directly and thank me for helping them release that, and I think everything that's in that course and everything that we're talking about is just, it's not easy to access, this information of this way of seeing the world, and so that's another big part of the work and mission that I feel like is part of my path and journey is sharing it, sharing the magic and providing different resources so people can continue their journey, to see what else will resonate.
Awesome. Well, we'll put a link to your masterclass in the show notes. So you can just, if you're listening to this, just go down, look at the show notes, you'll see a link. But tell our listeners if they'd like to contact you and learn more directly from you, how do they go about contacting you?
Totally. So the best place is the website. So it's www.solacedivorce.com. And I put everything on that website. We also have Facebook, Solace Divorce, and Instagram. And yeah, they could email me directly, if they have any questions. I'm always open to connecting with people. And that's jen@solacedivorce.com. And through the website, they could even just book a consultation. And just for anyone, listening, that maybe some of the things we were talking about, they're like, what is she talking about? What are they talking about? I encourage you to reach out, because it is my mission to serve as many people as I can and just really help them go through this experience differently. And I think the power in that is that it is such a dark, lonely time, but we go through these dark, lonely times and difficult times throughout our entire life journey. So what we learn in this container, we can really apply, to our future life when difficult times present, which is exciting for me too, to kind of really, really embrace and just spread more magic so people can live more joyful lives.
I love it. Well, all of that information she just gave us will also be in the show notes. So if you're working out or driving to work right now, listening to this podcast, don't worry about writing it down. It's in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today, Jen. This was a very enlightening conversation for me.
Oh, Jen, I love you. You're so cute. You're so sweet. So thank you. And thank you for having this space and this container to share. It's been beautiful, and it's been wonderful to connect with you.
Thank you so much.